In this video, we're going to talk about shared preferences. Let's put that down here, shared preferences. And the idea with shared preferences is it gives us the ability to have persistent data, but we're going to do it in key value pairs. And so the idea here is that this is smaller amounts of data that we might need to keep between views or when we open and close our application, key value pairs. And the idea behind key value pairs is you're going to have the key is a name, kind of like a variable name that you give it. For example, I might call, if I'm getting the first name of a person, I might call that key, and then the value is what they actually put in. So I would put in Kirsten as the value. So name is sort of a variable name. That's the key to a shared preference, and value is what the user will type in and what we're going to ultimately store. And we're going to use shared preferences to make that happen. And so I've pre-configured this little view, and the idea is very simply that this is going to be a string, this is a number widget, and so I'm going to take in a name and maybe a level is what my thoughts were, and so that way we can see both string and integer being utilized here. And when they put in their name and they give me a level of whatever their playing level is, when I have them click the button, that string, I'm going to concatenate that string and put it across the top here. And so here we go. Let's just give it a whirl. So I've already taken the liberty of creating the variables for the text field and also for the integer. I converted that to an int. And so now we need to, and I've also created the button, the on-click event for the button. So now we just are going to deal with the shared preferences, and here's how that will work. All right, so after all of this, and I'm in the click event of my button, so after all of this has worked, I'm going to set up what's called a shared preference, and I'll call it shared preference. And we're going to create, it's called get shared preferences, and we're going to give it a name similar to naming a text file or something along those lines. I'm just going to call mine my keys. Let me get rid of this so we have room here. So my keys. And then what mode I'm going to be in this particular case, this is just private to my application, so I'm going to use mode private. And good. All right, so I've created a link to that keychain, if you will, or that particular location that's going to store my named key value pairs. So I've named it my keys. And so the next thing is to open up, right now we're going to write the values to this key chain, this key holder. And in order to do that, you have to open up an editor, and that's a shared preferences editor. And shared preferences editor, I'm just going to call it editor. And shared preference, I'm going to open it up for edit. And so it's kind of like opening up a notepad, for lack of a better visual. So I need to open up the editor to write to that key holder file my key value pairs. And so I'm going to put to that key value editor. It's probably just easier if I type. You'll notice that there's only put int, put string, put boolean, put float, put long, and put string set. So I only have a few data types that I can choose from, but I do have to choose a data type when I'm writing my key value pair out. So in this case, I'm writing the name, so I'm going to use put string. So we're going to use our editor to put the string that we received from this text file. And so I put it into username, and so that's what we're going to put in here. So we're going to put, first I need to put what is the key going to be? And this key is going to be the name. And then after that, I'll put what the value is. And the value here was username. And then I need to put the integer, the level. So editor again, put string. This time it's not a string, it's an integer. And so I'm going to say put string integer, and we're going to call this level. And then I'm going to put in the value that I got from level, which happens to be level. So should be the same. There we go. All right. So now I've stored those. Oh, I have to close it. So the last thing to do is we have to commit it. Commit those values, commit those two key value pairs to my little keychain holder thing. All right. And so the next thing then would be we need to read those values, read the values. and put in our text. I think I have it as the hello world still, but in our text view widget. All right. So again, you would have to declare your shared preferences. So I would, if I was in another view, I would rewrite this particular line, but I already have the line, so I don't need to rewrite it. I just need you to know that if you're reading or writing, you need to create a new instance of the shared preference. So I'm going to use that same variable. And so now what we'll do is we need to get those values. So I need to get the string, and that would be the name is equal to reference my instance, which is shared preference. And then this time, instead of put string, we're going to use get string. And then we'll tell it what the key value pairs are that we're interested in. So I'm interested in the value, the key name. And then the next argument we have to send is what the default value is going to be. In this case, I'm just going to have it as an empty string. So you have to put something in there, whether it be an empty string or some value. So if the key is not existent, there'll be a default value that'll be put into place. And so integer, the level, I lost my key there for a minute. There it is equal to shared preference. Shared preference dot get int this time. And then again, the key, which was, I think, level, and also a default value. Remember that this is an integer, so I'm going to have to give it some kind of number value instead of the string that we did above. And so now I need to concatenate those strings just to, or let's see, we need to, I guess we need to get a hold of that. Did I already create a variable for, probably not. So let's do text view is equal to find view by ID, and I think I call that rd.text results. There it is. And so tv.setText will be equal to, we'll just concatenate our, let's see, the name plus empty space plus the level. All right, so now if all is successful, we will have written key value pairs to our shared preference object. And then the return situation, we will have read them from the shared preference object. So I'm going to put this on pause while I pull up my emulator, and then we'll see if that all worked. And we're back. So let's see, here's our placeholder. That was just lazy on my part. I didn't want to make another widget, so that one was the default, so I just let it happen. I always use my name, so probably we'll use Stitch this time because I haven't used Stitched in a while. Stitch, all right, and then Stitch is definitely a level 1500. So when I click on button, that's what should be concatenated in Hello World, and there it is. So that's shared preferences, another way to send or to store smaller amounts of data than our text files would store, but key value pairs are the key there. No pun intended. Well, it's kind of intended.